If you're starting the naturalization process for US citizenship in 2026, I'm going to go over some key points you need to be aware of before submitting that application to avoid larger problems in the future. I'm immigration lawyer John Khosravi. I help couples, individuals to get their citizenship within 5 years, 3 years if they're lucky, maybe even faster if they're a member of the military or married to a military person, and other kind of exceptions. Let's jump into some major issues that I see people have, especially if they're filing their cases on their own. And these are massive problems. The first one is one of the worst and easiest ones to avoid. I'm going to get into that first. But if you want to have a guide that goes through all this, we have a free one, 50+ page PDF you can download for free. Just go to jqqlaw.com/citizenship and download that guide, 50+ pages, jqqlaw.com/citizenship. So the first one I mentioned, which is just mind-blowing that unfortunately people get this one off, is that if you move in the United States to a new state, you can't file for citizenship until 90 days have passed. The reason why they made this is because they wanted people to not intentionally move to another state to try to get a different field office, different adjudicator, because it may affect their case somehow. It doesn't really most of the time, but people did take advantage of that, so they made it in the statutes, in the laws. If you move, you gotta wait 90 days before you can file for your M400. If you file sooner, USCIS, the agency that's gonna adjudicate the case, they'll take the form, take your money, they'll spend a couple months reviewing it, then do an interview, and then after the interview, they're just gonna deny you. They won't catch it early or save you the money, the time, or the hassle. And so just save it for yourself. Don't make that mistake. Along with that, these residency requirements apply for physical presence and continuous presence as well. I'm not gonna go too much into detail on that. The guide has it, but essentially you gotta make sure you count the number of days that you've been in the United States, physical presence, and you have enough of those, and you don't have long absences to make them think that you've been living outside the United States. You don't want to make those mistakes because it's a heck of a lot of work to try to fix it. The next thing that pops up is regard to criminal history. Now, a lot of people assume they know, they got this or not, but you'd be surprised how many people come to me after the fact getting denied or maybe even put into deportation where they didn't realize they had criminal history, or they didn't have the paperwork for it so they can improve certain things, or they just thought it was expunged or the record was closed or it was so long ago that it didn't matter. For immigration, for USCIS, it always matters. There's always going to be a problem. So you always have to have the documents ready. Get an FBI background checks. Go to the courts that you had. Get conviction records or expungement records to show that was expunged. But if there's more records explaining what it was or that the records don't exist, police reports, you got to have all this stuff. And if you've had, 10 or 15 police tickets for speeding, that could be a problem too. So you got to be mindful of those because they're going to get you for this as good moral character, not only the criminal side of it. For example, if you they got a lot of tickets, that doesn't necessarily mean you're a criminal, but they could think you have bad moral character. So you have to analyze those, have the records ready, be able to explain what happened in this situation, how things have changed, you're a better person, all that kind of stuff. But these are things that are going to be focused on a lot in this 2026 under the Trump administration. The next one is on taxes, and this goes also to good moral character. They want you to file your taxes, obviously, so they'll ask, and it's in the forms, have you filed taxes every year since you had to? And you have to say yes. And if you didn't, it could be a problem. Now, if you have back taxes, unpaid taxes, historically, if you had a payment plan with the IRS, they'll still make it okay if you had the payment plan, copy of it, as well as you've been paying it, showing that you're, abiding by it. That could be an approval right there. It still probably will be, but they've said they're going to start focusing on this hardcore and judge it negatively against you as bad moral character. So most likely, if you pay off your taxes first before filing, or at least until the interview happens, that's going to be a much better thing to do to avoid wasting the time and money of going through a citizenship case. Now, the next one's really important, and people miss this and don't understand the importance of it, is evaluating the immigration history. At citizenship, they're going to go back and look at everything from the beginning to the end of your life and analyze whether your green card was properly approved. Now, many, many times people think that if the immigration department approved the green card case, that means it's fine and there's no problems. But this is the government agency. There's peoples involved here. They make mistakes frequently. If they catch that mistake at citizenship, USCIS has no problem taking away your green card or sending you to immigration to get deported regardless. Even if at the time, if you were aware of it, you could have applied for a new green card based on marriage or through employment or through other matters. But at this point, 3, 5, 10 years have gone by and it's too late. You're divorced. You don't have that job anymore. So you don't have access to the green card application that you used to have. They don't care. So what we do is we have to review your history. Did you obtain the green card properly? Do a Freedom of Information Act request. That's called FOIA, F-O-I-A. And the FOIA request, we ask you from USCIS to get copies of your adjustment of status paperwork, previous visa history, also maybe from the Department of State, DOS. It's hard to get information from them. Maybe even from the CBP, the Customs Border Protection, OBIM, and anyone we can to get copies of records to analyze where you came up, how you got here, what you said in those applications. Did you miss a part where you're supposed to talk about other addresses, other aliases you've had? Did you miss a part about your work history that wasn't mentioned, that should have been mentioned? Maybe an arrest or criminal records, or a visas you had in the past, denials of visas, denials of entry in the United States, that could come up now and become a problem, and that'll cause them to do the worst thing, which is take away your green card, or the worse than that, get deported. So that's really important. People don't know about that. People don't think about that. But that's primarily the job of the immigration is looking for that part when they're going to accept a naturalization case. Now, the final one I would talk about is not the final one. There's a lot of different stuff we got to look at. But for this one, it's about false claim to citizenship. This one's a kiss of death, and that's why we always have to analyze it to make sure you didn't register to vote or vote. And so whatever state you lived in, it's important to go check out the registrar website, put your name and information in, and see whether you're listed as a person who's registered to vote, maybe FOIA, and get voter records from the state to make sure you're clear if you think you have. Now, sometimes people get jury duty notices. Typically, you get jury duty notices if you register to vote. Pretty frequently in the US, especially in California, my clients do get jury duty notices even though they never registered. So it's not like the worst thing. I've had people really paranoid thinking they did false claim, but they didn't, because we FOIA request, we contacted the registrar, and nothing is there. But that does happen sometimes. You got to be very careful. But the one that really gets people is I-9 forms. This is when you apply for a job and you fill out an immigration form with you. It's called I-9 that lists what your status is to be able to work in the United States. Now, if you're not a U.S. citizen and you mark that you're a U.S. citizen, that's an easy death penalty in immigration. How much defense you could have to that? If the government finds out, they'll take away your green card, put you in deportation, and the judge will approve it. They'll get you out. So be very careful. And if you see one of these situations exist, you got to think again before you apply for citizenship, because that could be a real bad situation for you. So I wanted to go through these, but check out the guide, jqklaw.com/citizenship. It'll go through a lot of it there, and plus a lot more, so you're prepared for what's going on. And then after that, schedule a consultation, jqklaw.com/contact. I'm immigration lawyer John Khosravi. Thanks so much for joining me on this walk where I lose my breath while I'm talking with y'all. I'm in pretty good shape. I'm not sure. Walking and talking like this is hard, but I enjoy, taking advantage of having a nice walk in a nice area. Beautiful flowers here. I really like these. You can't see them, you can't feel them, but they're really soft. I always like touching these ones. I forgot the name of it, but everyone knows what they are. But I'm immigration lawyer John Khosravi in LA. We help people from all across the country. Just reach out. Happy to help you as well. Bye-bye.